Thank you. Thanks, Julie. That was quite an introduction. I'm just overwhelmed by this. I don't know how to follow it. I just have one point of contention with that. I think you said that it's easy to make a bad film. I think making a film is always hard, and making a bad film is just as hard as making a good one. It's hard. As you're talking, I'm just I was just sitting there thinking about my whole life. I went to City College in New York, during the time of open admissions, and just kind of wandered into a film class. And, I've just been so lucky to be able to make the films that I've made and work on the subjects I've been able to work on. And I think that what happened when I wandered into that class at City College is I just found something that I really love to do. And that's made the biggest difference for me is that it's never, it's never been work. It's something that I love to do, and I think that's really important for anybody doing anything. Somebody asked me just today outside. They were doing a little interview, and they said, what do you say to younger filmmakers? I said, fine, make sure that you love doing what you do, because the life of a documentary filmmaker is not this. This is not my life. It's not getting awards. It's going into an edit room, with one other person and sitting there, sometimes to the middle of the night trying to get things right. So it's really, you have to really love it to do it. I don't want to talk too long because, as was said, the film, it's an hour and 53 minutes, and it doesn't feel like that. It feels like an hour and 52. So it's going to just zoom by. But I just want to say, I want to just make sure that I acknowledge my wife and business partner Marcia Smith, who's in the back. And as she knows, she's been instrumental to me. I was struggling along as a kind of a solitary documentary filmmaker, and we got together, and that's really marked a change, in my life and in my career. And part of it is because I think Marcia thinks that I'm better than I am, and it pushes me to try to be that person that she sees. So once again, I hope you all like the film. I'll be here afterwards for question and answer, not only about this film, but about anything you want to talk about. I think that when we started the film on the Black Panthers 7 years ago, I thought that the story of the Black Panthers was relevant today. I think that what's unfolded in this country since then has made the film even more relevant today than it was 7 years ago. But I just want to end once again. Thank you all so much for this award. I'm just really, really honored. Thanks again. Oh, and I should also say that they mentioned that the International Documentary Association award that we're up for Best Documentary of the Year, what wasn't mentioned is that's going on tonight in LA, but I'm here with you. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Wow, it's such an outstanding film. This is the third time I've seen it, and I'm still riveted by this film. Stanley, congratulations. It's an amazing accomplishment.
Thanks.
So I'll just tell you quickly, the film opened at the Sundance Film Festival last year. It's been on a year-long tour of festivals all over the world, in fact. Stanley and I were just both in Amsterdam. He was screening the film. And it will be airing on PBS in April?
February.
Sorry, February.
February 16th, to be exact.
So I thought I would, because we have a short amount of time, I thought we'd have a more democratic Q&A in which I'll ask a question, and then I'll throw a question to you guys, and then I'll ask a question back to you. So it's not just all me asking Stanley questions. So there's so many parts of the film I would love to talk to you about. The archival footage is incredible. You really get a sense for the community, the emotion, the multi-layer, the complications. Just incredible. While you were making the film, you said you'd been working on it for 7 years. What did you know then, or what do you know now that you didn't know then when you first started?
I think that in the process, you learn so much. I mean, I thought that again, this was an incredible story. It was a story that people didn't know, that that there were people, there were witnesses around, who for them this was in some ways the most important thing in their lives, and so you're getting that. You just get that emotion, through their faces, and that it was the right time to tell the story. I should say that 5 people who were in the film have passed away since we shot the film, and that was, in the last year and a half or so. So, if you tried to tell the story right now, you couldn't even tell the story in the same way that we did. So, I learned so much. I think, that the Panthers were so young, I think that that's something that we kind of don't think about, that they were basically teenagers, and that the role of women, I think, in the Panther Party stands out. And then, that the FBI really did go after the Panthers to destroy the Panthers, and even more that they documented the whole thing, that, through their memos and stuff, that they wrote it down, which is really shocking. So I guess those are the things that come to mind right away that I learned while making the film.
And I will ask one more question. It's amazing when I look at the film, at the first 15 minutes of the film, how relevant, or it's almost like history's repeating itself in the attacks. Do you feel it now when you watch the first 20 minutes, 15 minutes, how relevant, even more relevant than you could have known 7 years ago when you started?
Yeah, I think that, as we were finishing the film, so we finished the film last December or so just like a year ago, and then it premiered in Sundance, actually this year in January. All these things, Ferguson started, happened, and then these things, one after the other. And we were just in the edit room like, oh my God, this is really strange. So, there was one reviewer, I think, who said, Stanley never ties it into what's happening today. And I was like, well, I don't think we have to do that. And I think that would be kind of hitting people over the head with a hammer. I think one of the things that's so great about the filmmaking experience is that, as a viewer, you make certain connections yourself. And when you make those connections yourself, it's like you've discovered something. And there's that different feeling than if we hit you over the head. So, if people don't see the relevance of it today, hopefully they'll still get something out of the film. But I think most people, understand the relevance to today.
Anybody have a question? First question? You? Yeah.
What inspired you to start making a film in black? What inspired you?
So the question was, what inspired me to make the film? I had always been interested in the story. I was 15 maybe or so when the Panthers came into being. I was living in New York City. It was a time where, like so many people, so many in the North, we're looking for something different, and the Panthers, were just so amazing to everybody, and that's not just black folks, they were just, we had never seen anything like it, nobody had. And it was just an amazing story. So I was kind of drawn, into. I never became a Panther, but I think I did a paper when I was in college about the Panthers. I would love to see that paper today. It's probably hilarious, but I did. So, so I'd always kind of had this interest, And frankly, what happened was that another filmmaker, a friend of mine, St. Clair Bourne, a documentary filmmaker, was making a film or trying to get a film off the ground on the Panthers. So he had that the territory kind of covered. So, and then he kind of tragically passed away, and at that point, a little while after that, I was like, well, there's this kind of opening for me to pursue my own film on the Panther. So that was part of it. But once again, as I said, before the film, I thought it was so relevant. The story was relevant. That was 7 years ago. When you ask why do you make a film, I should say that, to be really honest, there's a number of reasons why a filmmaker makes a film. So if somebody says to you, I just had to make this film about, or one reason, you probably shouldn't believe it. Because there's a number of reasons. So I thought the story was relevant, but I also thought, there were these great witnesses. I thought that, there were these incredibly charismatic people, who were around. I thought that there was great footage and great stills, and then the music, was great. And I thought that the film, would appeal to so many different audiences. It would appeal to black people who were around in the day. It appeals to white people who were around in the day. It appeals to young people today. There's so many different kind of people who were open to the story. One more thing, but I also think that what happened was with what's happened in this country in the last year with Ferguson and this kind of litany of different horrors that have happened, is it's opened up the film to people who would have been skeptical isn't really the word, but who might have had a resistance to the film. I think that it's kind of opened up that curtain, and it's harder to kind of say, oh, the Panthers were not relevant at all, or you kind of it's opened it up in a way that I think has made the film kind of take off in a way that I never anticipated.
A comment and a question. People who were around at the time knew that Fred Hampton, or heard that Fred Hampton had been murdered. I think you've done something beyond that in the sense of explaining why, although nobody really knew. A lot of people didn't know how important, why Fred Hampton was so important. So I think that in itself is quite astounding. And then the second point is, as a question, I think I saw somewhere that Bobby Seale refused to cooperate. The question is, did he ever explain to you why? Because he was the only one of the original people that were there who could have said something. Why?
Yeah, unfortunately, Bobby Seale, we couldn't get Bobby Seale to agree to be in the film. I think that, I usually don't explain that because I just don't want to get into it. But I think that in some ways Bobby has been burnt by the media before. I think that also Bobby had this idea of making his own film. And so many times, you run into people who were part of these important events, who have in their back of their minds that they're gonna write a book, or they're gonna make a film or something, and it's hard to convince them to be part of your project. So we tried. I feel very comfortable that I did and we did everything we could possibly do to get Bobby to participate. It just didn't work out.
You should do it justice.
Thank you.
Do them all justice.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Seriously, thank you.
Stanley, because you're getting a Career Achievement Award tonight, I wanted to just talk a little bit about your own progress in your career. You started the Producers Lab 15 years ago when you were kind of mid-career yourself. Also, you should know about Stanley is he's kind of a PBS darling. All of his films air on American Experience. He is a filmmaker that they are always happy to have come with an idea and make a film, but it's still a struggle, right? So would you talk a little bit about your path as a filmmaker and the struggle and why you started the Producers Lab to make it easier for others?
Yeah, I think one of the things that people have to understand about my career is that I spent more of my career being the filmmaker that nobody wants to talk to, and PBS won't take my calls than I've spent with people actually answering the phone and saying hello. So I spent a lot of time struggling to make a film. The first major film I made, $2 in a Dream, about Madam C.J. Walker. and that film took 7 years to make. And I thought, okay, I'm on my way. Here we go. And then the next film I made, The Black Press, took another 7 years to make. And so I kind of got used to that 7 years. That's like, so somebody said to me tonight, they were like, oh, 7 years. I'm like, yeah, but that's typical. It doesn't feel bad if you get the film made. After if you get the film made, you're like, okay, I've done it. It doesn't. But I think that it's been a long road. I mean, what I always tried to do when I made films was I tried to make sure that each film, I learned something and tried to stretch myself a little bit, and that that film, I just wanted that film not to be the film that kind of stopped my career, in its path. I wanted that film to be able to lead, hopefully, to another film. But I mean, I think that there probably are some filmmakers, who are being approached, and people are, calling them up and saying, "Could you do this film?" And people are offering them millions of dollars. I'm just not one of them. And I probably don't really know any of those people either. I think filmmaking, again, it's just a struggle, and then you get used to it, and you get used to the idea that it's not simple to raise the money. I worked with Bill Moyers, at PBS on a couple of different series that he did, and he had this great thing that he said. He said, it's like, nobody ever wants to fund your whole film. So it's like, you're trying to go from New York to Los Angeles, and somebody says, well, I can take you to Chicago. And then the next person says, well, I'll get you to the next city, and, the next and the next. But nobody is giving you, enough money to kind of get to L.A., So you're constantly fighting for that next piece of money.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, how difficult was it to obtain all the information from the FBI? Was that accessible and easy to get to?
The question was the FBI information. The FBI is the FBI. It wasn't. It was more. So a lot of it came from Freedom of Information Act, but you can't say could you give me some stuff that really looks bad? Just send me. So you have to figure out, like what it is you want, and we were helped by other people who had written books about the FBI or the Panthers. One of our scholars is writing a book on J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, so she was very helpful in helping us pinpoint the documents. Again, I was just amazed that the documents actually really exist, because you always hear about how the FBI went after the Panthers, but to kind of see it there in black and white was amazing. And then trying to figure out like what to use and what not to use, because it's kind of there's tons of this stuff, and it's also a lot of times it's written in this weird FBI speak, that doesn't it kind of makes sense, but it takes so long to kind of get up to speed that we had to kind of really pick stuff that you could understand quickly.
There's a question over there, Julie, that's been, okay.
Well, I just wanted to ask, would you consider for your next project, like doing something about Ferguson and the more contemporary things that are going on? And do you have anything going on that is your next project?
Okay, so it was, everybody heard that, Ferguson, and the question was, would I consider something on Ferguson, and what is my next project? So I'm working on a film now. We just started a little while ago on historic black colleges and universities. It's a very different kind of film, and the history of that, and their role in kind of the making of America and where they're going for today. A group that we work. There were filmmakers that were working with the lab we run are making a film about Ferguson. It's called Whose Streets, and they're from there, and they're very young, they're in their early 20s, and they started filming from the beginning. They were like out on the protest at the very beginning. And so we're working with them to help them make that film about Ferguson. One of the things I should say is one of the first things we did when we finished the film was we actually had this free screening in Ferguson, and that was kind of an amazing thing to do. We brought one of the members of the party, the Black Panther Party, was there, and I was there, and then we had an activist from Ferguson, and we kind of, that was who was there for the question and answer, which was just really exciting. I had never been to Ferguson before, so.
Have you screened, I'm sure you have screened the film in Oakland.
Yeah. We had a great run in Oakland. in the Bay Area. We opened in the Bay Area. So the way the film opened, we opened in the Film Forum in New York, September 2nd, and then next week we opened in Boston, and the next week we opened in Philadelphia. And then we kind of worked our way across the country. We opened in Oakland last, and we opened in 6 different theaters in the Bay Area the same, like on same Friday night, and I think we were held over in Oakland for like 5 or 6 weeks. So. Yeah, I mean, and all of this is, us doing this with no advertising. It's not like you could turn on Sunday Night Football and see, the Black Panthers vanguard of the revolution at a local theater. So it was all kind of word of mouth, and using social media, and then a lot of like just kind of legwork. People really kind of turn out. If you have the director, the producer, and some people who are in the film at every opening weekend, and then so we try to fill the theater the first nights, and then people would then tell their friends, and just went on from there.
Your team did a great job. I saw a question over here.
I don't know if you know this. I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya, and in the 50s we had the Mau Mau Revolution. And those guys were hiding in the forest, but when they were captured, a lot of them had the dreadlocks and the shades and the black leather jackets. And then later, in the 60s, at the university in Nairobi, some of the images that we saw in your film of the headquarters and so on were posted up on the university boards. And there were a lot of young African students who were walking around looking like the Black Panthers. I always thought that was just 60s fashion. But now I see that maybe there was a connection.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the Panthers, took a lot of their style from other revolutions around the world. From Che Guevara and others with the beret. A lot of Emery's art is kind of modeled after that kind of revolutionary art of Cuba and China. And then the Panthers kind of spread. I mean, if we had 4 or 5 hours, we could have told a lot more of the story. There was a Black Panther Party in Australia, in South Africa, in Israel. There was a Black Panther Party. So there were Panthers all over.
Did Eldridge Cleaver and Kathleen eventually came back to the United States?
Yeah. It's a long involved story about of why of why people were not prosecuted for certain things, and I think one of the things is that the Panthers had great lawyers. I mean, that there were great lawyers working for the movement, and that was one of the contentions, in the party, was that the law work, really the great law work, went for the leaders, and not some of the other people. But it also is very interesting, a reflection of the time. The times back then, if you think about, 67, 68, 69, and kind of this not blind trust of law enforcement that we kind of got into for years after that. And I think, it's shifting back the other way. I was watching TV this morning, and that was kind of like what they were talking about, I think, on Melissa Harris Perry, about, the fact that, people aren't kind of blindly trusting the police's versions of things that happen.
Yeah, one of the things that, one of the threads was about the relationship between the Panthers and the women. And it appears that there was some disharmony there. Can you sort of give us a little more light behind that?
Yeah. So the questions about Panthers and women. I think one thing to understand, about the Black Panthers is the Black Panthers were different things at different times in different cities. And we're talking in this film about the Panthers really from 66 to 72, 73. So I think that, the Panthers had this kind of macho image that we all know. And that, as Elaine Brown says, they tried to try to fight that, as the women especially, as much as they could. But as her line is great, that we didn't get the brothers from Revolutionary Heaven, So there, I think I think that's who the Panthers were. I think that after that period, 73 on, as Huey kind of took control of the party again. There were women who had real problems, in the party and with the party.
Just kind of a follow-up to that.
Go ahead.
I just wondered about when you reached out to Angela Davis.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a question that we get every single time. I mean, it was great because we went to Amsterdam. We got the same question. I was like, okay, so Angela Davis was not a member of the Black Panther Party, and that's why she's really not characterized in the film. She was, huh?
If you look her up, it says she is.
She was, well, whatever you're looking up, it's probably Wikipedia or something, because Angela Davis was not a member of the Black Panther Party. She was not a member of the Black Panther Party, and I had been saying that, and I saw Angela Davis at an event this summer, and I said, "Listen, Angela, just let me make sure, because I'm saying to every audience and every screen when they ask that you weren't a member of the party," and she says, "No, I wasn't a member of the party. I was aligned with the party, and some of our aims were very clearly the same, but I was not a member of the party." Now, that may be a cop-out, but in terms of the fact that the fact is, we're trying to cover a lot of material in a short period of time, so it was very easy for us to say, well, she wasn't a member of the party. That's fine. There was also, as we were working on this film, a great film came out on Angela Davis called "Free Angela and All Political Prisoners," and I would suggest that people see that film if they want to see more about Angela. But again, if we had 4 or 5 hours, we could probably put some Angela Davis, more of Angela Davis in the film.
Yeah, I thought the film was very powerful, and it delivers a very emotional message. And I just wonder if you've ever had an opportunity to screen it with police departments in Chicago, Ferguson, and if you did, what kind of reaction?
I had the opportunity probably, but I just didn't pick up on it. It's probably a good idea, and maybe at some point, I'll have we haven't done it. Actually, the police in Ferguson, because when we screened in Ferguson, what happened was I think we received some kind of a threat or something, and then so the police, then it became a police screening kind of. They kind of took over the screening, and they were like, okay, there's a threat. It's under police. You're under police protection. So there were a lot of police there, and they were like, hey, that's a really good film, man. I mean, it was like really interesting. They were like, they were giving me some ideas from other films that I should make, But I mean, they seemed to like it. But I mean, I think just in terms of kind of, the way the film has exploded and we've been trying to kind of, or we've almost been trying to run behind the film and keep up with the film. We haven't really kind of had the time to reach out to the police.
How about youth police?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've done a ton of is the youth are incredible. I think youth. That's just been incredible. So one of the things that we did when we screened the film again was we would screen the film and screen it with youth groups and all around the country. So at Film Forum, the first 14 nights we had different partners to screen the film with. A lot of those were Black Lives Matter, Million Hoodies, whatever, and we would screen that in the film. And we'd have a member, one of their members speak, and maybe one of the Panthers kind of cross-talk and have a lot of youth there. We screened the film in Philadelphia, one of the greatest sights I've seen when I traveled all over the country with the film was the film. The screening was sold out, and like 5 minutes before the screening, somebody comes out and is like, well, they're saying the thing is sold out. There's like tons of seats in there, and we look up and there's this escalator. We look up the escalator and it's like 100 black kids from Penn who had bought, like the Black Student Union had like bought 100 tickets or something like that, and they all came in mass to the screening. So I think that we've screened a lot of some places. The audiences have been 2/3 young people. And, we're doing a lot more of that. One of the things that we're doing now is that so we've gone from the theatrical distribution, like right now we're moving into kind of getting ready for the film to be on PBS, and we're part of this thing called community cinema. So the film will be in 75 communities all over the country, and so, yeah.
And I will say that one of the things that Stanley's team has been really amazing at is the social media push, because none of those people come to the theater on their own, or very few. All the effort because I'm on this receiving end. I did the Kickstarter campaign, I signed up for all the newsletters, I get everything. So his team, the work of a film it changes when you finish the film. Yeah. Now you finish this great film, now you got to get people to see it. And as you said, it's not like you're going to see it on a commercial on Monday Night Football. So you want to talk a little bit about your social media team?
Yeah. We've been pushing the film. One of the great things I should say is PBS has been incredibly supportive of the film, and really gets the film and gets the message of the film and they've been great, and so they released it in theaters, but we knew that we had to kind of do our piece to turn people out. The first thing we did was we had a Kickstarter campaign, and actually one person here came up to me and actually contributed, who's here tonight, to the Kickstarter campaign, which was, I hugged him and he thought I was weird, but so we had a Kickstarter campaign to kind of raise money to augment PBS's money to get the film out there. And, we're just like constantly hammering social media, finding groups to partner with, finding people to partner with. I traveled, everywhere all over the country to try to opening night in Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco, everywhere. We went for opening night and just really get the message out there, and then through social media, just try to get more and more people and more groups to know about the film and get a chance to see the film, because that's the way that it gets out there. I mean, one of the interesting things for me in this whole process, people have you hear how people say people are getting their information in different ways now. You always hear that, and I think that in terms of traveling around all over the country, I would have people tell me that they heard about the film in every way possible. From Melissa Harris Perry's show that I was on to Joe's blog, just all different ways, and it's really true that people are getting their information in so many different ways, and we've been trying to figure out, we did anything that people we could do to get the word out there. We were asked to be on Hot 97 radio, and I was like, well, whatever that is, and my kids were like, Hot 97, you gotta be on Hot 97. Oh my God. And I'm teaching, and so the Hot 97 has a blog, and my students were like, Professor Nelson, you blowing up. You're on Hot 97. I was like, yeah, who knew? Whatever. Okay.
I was just wondering, the white police officers that you interviewed, have they changed their stance about how they feel about how they involve themselves in what went down in that time?
Yeah, so the question was, have the police officers changed their mind? Nah, I don't think so. I find that, police aren't as the most reflective people in the world, but also, the police, their role is very different than the FBI. They were like, okay, go out and raid this house. Okay, we're going to go do the raid. The FBI, I think, was more, this is your assignment. So you're spending years and years doing that. Swearington, the FBI agent who's in the film, he's kind of a whistleblower. That's what, he's written books about it and about, what he did during that time. He takes great, responsibility for what was happening at the FBI at that time. But the police, I mean, we really went after them. We really wanted to have the police's point of view, and we really searched out the police and really spent a lot of time trying to get the police point of view in the film. And although they don't have a lot of screen time, I think that their role in the film is really important to hear from them.
It must have been interesting for you during the interview with the policeman. Were you thinking to yourself, aha, I got you? Were you thinking to yourself, I can't believe the guy just said that, and that's going to be in my movie? I mean,
well, first, they're retired cops. So when we got there to the interview, I was really so happy that they still look like cops. You know what I mean? I mean, they could have all grown their hair long and come to the door smoking a joint. I mean, they're in California, so I don't know. But they still look so much like cops. So I was like, okay, right there, that in itself is good. And I really, it's different sometimes how you perceive an interview going when you're doing the interview and how it shows up on film. I mean, I was really happy for their honesty, that they actually showed up and would talk about it and would be honest about it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I am. It's not got you that I'm thinking, but it's like got it more. Like we've got it. We've really, this is actually, all this time we spent trying to get this guy in a room with a camera is actually working.
it's actually a really important perspective to have in the film, which obviously was very important to you. Any other questions here?
One more. I would be very interested to know, with all that energy of young blacks in the country, it was like watching the movie was like being in a waterfall of feeling and energy and excitement. And then what happened when the leaders were murdered? What happened to the people? Did you have a sense of that? Have you had a sense of that as you've gone around the country?
So the question was, what happened to the people? I mean, the party, so the film kind of ends in 73 or so. The party kept on going in some weird way until, I think, 82 or something, when it officially folded. So there, is no more Black Panther Party. I think different things happen to different people. I think that most of the Panthers that you talk to will agree that they're suffering from post-traumatic stress, that as a whole, they really suffered it, and a lot of them, didn't do well. Some of them did. I found that, this would just be my guess. I don't have kind of an empirical study, but that the younger you were, the better you did. If you were younger, like Jamal Joseph, he was 15 when he entered the party. He's a professor of film at Columbia University. I think he might be dean of the film department. So he ended up, doing fairly well. Flores Forbes, who's in the film, also works at Columbia University. He was very young. I think for the people who were 21, 22, who might have gotten out of the party, now they're 25, 26, 27, 28, it was much harder for them to adjust to this life, as Elaine says, without the Black Panther Party. So different people are doing different things. Most of the people, I would say, stayed active in some way, but a lot of them, suffered. One of the things that happened for us is that when we premiered on September 2nd at Film Forum in New York, afterwards we had a little celebration, party, and one of the Panthers who was there came up to me and said, Stanley, I never thought in the world that the Black Panther Party would get a standing ovation from a mixed audience. I never thought in the world that would happen. And I think that's kind of what they suffered with.
So,
Go right ahead.
Is there anything that you wanted to get in your documentary that you were unable to elicit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there was, there was one. I mean, there was the probably the last thing that we cut. The only kind of complete story that we wanted to get in. There was a shooting at UCLA early on, where and there was another group called Us, a Black nationalist group, and the Panthers had. And so there was the Us killed a couple of the members of the Panthers on campus at the student union. It was a very famous shooting, and what was interesting to us about that shooting was that the FBI purposefully set these two groups against each other, and wrote letters, fake letters to the Panthers that were they said were from Us, and the other way around, and drew cartoons and sent them and really set them up against each other. And from that, the FBI said, hey, we can do this. It really can work to set, the Panthers against each other or other groups against the Panthers. And we ended up cutting it because we just didn't have the witnesses to really tell the story the way we wanted to tell it. And we didn't have the visuals to be able to tell it. There were some really powerful pieces there, but it was one of those things where we were just struggling with it, and the editor one day said, why don't we just cut it and see what happens, and we cut it, and the film just got so much better, It was like, oh God, and in some ways those things really hurt because you're like, oh God. Yeah, it is better without it. So that was probably the one thing that I wish we had been able to make work that we couldn't.
So if I could just add finally, the website for the film is Black Panthers.
TheBlackPanthers.com is the website of the film, TheBlackPanthers.com. All the information about where the film is going, when it's going to be on, all those kind of great things are there. And you can also get in contact with us and anything
More
like that.
questions.
Yeah, and we're still going anywhere to screen the film.
Please tell your friends, because the next order of business is to make sure that the film gets great ratings on PBS when it airs. And also go on the Firelight Media site, which is firelightmedia.org. Support the Producers Fund, support Firelight Media. And we can't wait to see your next film, Stanley. Thanks.
Thank you all so much. Thanks. Thank you.